systems. Now there are two types of cost accounting systems: that job order costing system and a process costing system. And we're going to look at the difference of them and what distinguishes them now. A cost accounting system in general involves measuring, recording, and reporting of product costs. Remember the distinction between product cost and period costs. Now, these accounts are not a separate set of accounting records. They're integrated into the financial general ledger system as just a few more accounts added to the normal accounting system and the inventory. Is perpetual inventory system. Now there are two types of systems: a job order cost system and a process cost system. A job order system assigns cost to a job. Let's assume we want to determining the cost to produce a desk. The job could be production of one desk, or the job could be an order for 100 of those desks. It depends on how we define the job. Now each job has its own distinguishing characteristics. Each job takes a different amount of material, say wood, a different amount of labor, and our objective is to compute the cost of that job. For example, let's take a printing company. Job number 9501 is for wedding invitations. Notice the direct material, a box and a number of laminated cards and black ink, so we're going to accumulate the cost of producing this job. The next job is job 9501, the printing of a menu for a local restaurant. Of course, a different size, different amount of material. Different typesets. Notice that each job has distinguishing characteristics, a different amount of direct labor and direct material, and a different amount, of course, of overhead costs. In a process costing system, we use this when we produce a large number of similar products, petroleum production of ice cream. How about Coca-Cola and the Coca-Cola plant? You see, they produce the same can of Coke. Each can of Coke has the same amount of material in it, and same on the labor was used to produce it, and therefore it should be assigned the same amount of overhead. How do we do that? We accumulate the costs DM, DL and O for a week or a month. And then we simply divide that cost by the output of the process by the number of cans of Coca-Cola that we produce that week. That's how we assign the cost of the product that is very similar in production. Now Dell computers the same thing. They produce thousands of these models. They use a process costing system to determine the cost of each product. Types of businesses that would use process costing, of course, oil. Benzene then is removed from the oil. Then we produce a product of pellets, and then we take those pellets, smash them and form them into DVDs. So all of this is done in a process, starting with number 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and we would accumulate the cost of each step of that process and divide it through by the output. The DVD disc's production of the desk begins with raw material taken from stores and begins to be fashioned into a finished product. The manufacturing costs are assigned to what is called work in process. That is the work being done on the shop floor to produce a final product when the product is finally produced. Then it's transferred to finished goods inventory, and then when it's sold, it comes out of finished goods inventory and is charged as an expense to the cost of goods sold. So on T accounts, you can see manufacturing costs, direct material or raw materials, factory labor and manufacturing overhead. Now there are assigned as work is being done on the product when the product is finished. This is a fire truck. It is credited working process debit to finished goods, and then, when it's sold, it's credit, finished goods and debit. It costs a good sold. How do we keep track of the costs? That with what's called a job cost sheet. And it's used to record all the costs chargeable to the specific job. It's basically a subsidiary ledger for the working process. Now it follows the job as the job is being worked on, and they will record the amount of material they used to produce the product and the amount of labor that they used to produce the product. And this is what the job sheet would look like. Job number, you have it. And the item, a desk for the university quantity. One date, requests they completed, and as the job was worked on, they would have added the direct materials person who is working on the job and recorded their labor, and they were told that up. Then it would go to the accountant and the accountant would add the manufacturing overhead, and we'll get into how they do that a little bit later. So when we assign the manufacturing costs to WIP, the raw materials are assigned. Some are indirect materials. Some are direct materials. But when the person starts a job, that person require a requisition. The material that they require, and they use the material requisition slip, which gives them the authorization to issue the raw material and is distinguished between which raw materials that is direct, the wood, and which raw materials are indirect. The glue and the material requisition slip would look like this. The quantity lithium batteries, those things are dangerous and, they got it. And the total amount is 1,000. So that's the material requisition slip. Now he would record that on his job cost sheet. The accountant then would look at that and record the journal entry, and the journal entries simply would be, debit work in process inventory. David, manufacturing overhead, and credit raw material inventory. So now the raw material is on the shop floor. Some of the direct material went to job 101, some went to 102, some went to 103, and you see the direct material being recorded as the job 101 was worked. There was some direct material on the 6th of the month. Someone the 12th, someone the 26th, and so on. So that's how we record the direct material. Now look at the job sheets. They're going with the job there. A subsidiary ledger in the accounting ledger. You have the general ledger, you have the total 24,000 at 24 is broken down here between the 12 and the 7 and the 5. That's the direct material. The factory labor, now the labor records, time tickets, and prepared on the work that they followed. So this is a person's time ticket work. 4 hours on job, 1 on 1 hourly rate, and so on. So therefore, the accountant would make the journal entry. Now some of the labor is direct, so it would be debit work and process inventory. Some is indirect, so I would be debited manufacturing overhead, and the credit is factory labor costs. The journal entry would then be posted in that way, and then it would be at the same time as that posting has taken place in the general ledger. The 28,000 on the shop floor of the 3 jobs are picking up the total cost here, 9 and 645 and 4, which makes up 24,000. So at all times, what's on the shop floor on the subsidiary ledger in terms of cost is in the accounting ledger, and that's how we control the costs on a manufacturer. We know exactly up in the office of the account. And they know exactly how much the cost are when they get the cost sheets. Now manufacturing over here, this indirect cause. So this is where we have some difficulty. We have to make estimates. Remember, an indirect cost is a cost that we know was consumed in the production of my product, but I cannot measure it exactly. Therefore, I have to assign it. I assign it to the working process. I assign it to the specific jobs. How do I do that? I come up with what's called a predetermined overhead rate, an estimated overhead rate. Predetermined overhead rate is an estimate of the total amount of overhead that I think I will incur for the whole year. So this is done at the beginning of the year. We estimate the total overhead costs, the total amount of the factory rent, the total amount of the factory utilities, the total indirect factory labor. All of that is totaled up. Let's say it comes to $1 million, and then we're going to assign that million in terms of either direct labor costs, direct labor hours, or machine hours. These three things we can measure exactly on each job, so each job would take. If we're going to now, we only use one of these activity base. Let's say direct labor hours. So each job it's a different size, so it take a different amount of direct labor hours, so therefore it will be assigned a different total overhead, but it will be based on that overhead rate times the number of direct labor hours assigned to that job. So how do I do that again? I estimate at the beginning of the year. I use one company rate. So the formula is estimated annual overhead costs divided by estimated annual operating activities. And I have a predetermined overhead rate. For example, let's say the estimated annual overhead costs are $1 million. We're going to assign it on direct labor hours. And so the production manager says, well, I think with all the jobs we're going to produce in the coming year, we're probably going to use 200,000 direct labor hours. Alright, 1 million divided by 200,000, and my predetermined overhead rate would be $5 or $5 per unit per hour for direct labor. Or then I look on the job tickets and they say, okay, this job, they had 4 direct labor hours. I'm going to charge 20. This job had 8. I'm gonna charge 40 and so on. So you see, what we take is the actual amount of direct labor worked on every job times the predetermined overhead rate. So we look at job 1. What was the hours? We have that from the time tickets and we assign the rate. So you see, it's the accountant that does this. It's not the production person on the shop floor. These job tickets 12 and 3 would have direct material and direct labor, and they would come up to the accountant's office and they would apply the overhead and figure the final cost of this product. Now let's go through an illustration. Wallace uses direct labor costs as the activity-based, not labor hours cost. Assuming that the company expects annual overhead costs to be $280, and directly would cost $350, compute the overhead rate. Well, in this case, it will be a percentage, because if I'm dealing with the costs, I'm dealing with a percentage of the direct labor cost worked on each job. 80%. This means that for every dollar of direct labor worked on a job, I'm going to assign 80 cents to cover the overhead. So I look on each job ticket and say, okay, what's the total direct labor costs, and I multiply that by 80% for manufacturing overhead. Calculate the amount of applied overhead. If this job had 28,000 in direct labor costs, well, I'm going to assign 22,400. The journal entry would be debit the working process because it goes to the job, and credit this thing called manufacturing overhead. 22,400. So here's your third cost element in the general ledger. You have direct material. 24,000, direct labor 28,000. And you'll notice on the job ticket 101. We have 15,000 direct labor costs. We multiply that by 80% and we have manufacturing overhead of 12,000. Now we're assigning that we're allocating all that overhead to this job based on the direct labor costs. Now job 102, they had direct labor of 9,000, so we're going to charge 7,200 manufacturing overhead. And lastly, the fourth out, we can see that we're going to charge 3,200. That's how they go to the jobs. So at the end of the month, the working process inventory, as recorded in the general ledger, would be 74,400. My three cost elements: direct material directly over and overhead and on the job sheets. When I take job 101 and add the total cost in job 102 and 103, I come up with 74,400. So you see, management always has control of the manufacturing cost on the production floor of a manufacturing company through the records. Now the job is completed. The card is finished and sent out. So here's a summary of the cost flow. The three cost elements into the working process into the finished goods, then sold. It becomes a period cost of goods sold up until finished goods. It's a product cost. The job cost sheet records the material and the labor and the predetermined overhead. Now it's an estimate that overhead, an annual estimate. Well, how likely is it going to be on right on? Not very likely. You will notice that as we went through, what we did was we're going to record the actual overhead. The actual amount of factory rent, actual utilities, the actual indirect labor. We're keeping track of that all year long. Now, as we produce the product, we're allocating the overhead. We're applying it to the product. So you see my manufacturing overhead costs when I incur the manufacturing costs. I debit that account. When I apply it to the products, I credit that account. I debit working process for the manufacturing overhead, and I credit manufacturing overhead. So at the end of the year, either my debits exceed my credits or my credits exceed my debits. Now, if the debits exceed the credits, that means I have a debit balance, and I did not apply as much as I incurred. And that's why I end up with a debit balance. I incurred more than I applied, so I under-applied the overhead. If I have a credit balance, that simply means that I applied more to my jobs than I actually incurred. Now keep in mind, when I determine the cost of my product, I have the direct material right, it is actual. It's direct. I measured it exactly. I have the direct labor right on measured exactly, but the overhead is a complete estimate, and I'm going to be high or I'm going to be low. Well, what I charged the jobs during the year R is what I applied the overhead. It's only at the end of the year, when I know my total overhead costs, that I can determine whether I applied too much or too little. And that means my cost of goods sold is either too high or too little. Cost of goods sold has the actual direct material action direct labor but an estimate of the overhead. So when I find out what the actual manufacturing overhead is, if it's under-applied, I increase the cost of goods sold by debuting it. If it's over-applied, I decrease the cost of goods sold by crediting it. So let's assume Wallace has a credit balance in the manufacturing overhead. That means they applied more than they incurred, so if they applied more than occurred, the cost of goods sold is too high. So what I do is I charge the manufacturing overhead debit to bring the debits up to the credit side, and I credit the cost of goods sold. I bring the cost of goods sold down by 2,500, and that completes it. That is the way a manufacturing company determines the cost to produce their product.